Hey guys, welcome back. Been a little bit of time, but I've really been trying to focus on deeper research and my physical life and all that, the 3D reality and all that. But a topic that has been coming up repeatedly, and it actually even came up today in a conversation with one of my Patreon members, is this idea of telepathic infiltration. Okay, can you differentiate between your own thoughts, let's say your own generated programs, your own generated beliefs, your own moral compass, your own inclinations, and let's say telepathic infiltrations that can happen, because they do happen. You just have to be very aware. You have to be acutely aware of what is your own and what isn't. And I would argue that a large part of what you may think is your own isn't, right? Because that's due to programming. But when you have thoughts like, oh, maybe I should go and do something completely out of the ordinary, right? Something you're not used to completely doing, or completely against your integrity, your moral values, your belief system. And I'm not saying this from like a positive perspective, like, oh, I want to stop smoking. Like, smoking is an ordinary habit that I'm so used to, but now this would be completely out of the ordinary for me to stop smoking. That must be telepathic infiltration. And while that could be, right, they could be setting you up toward a higher path, maybe gearing you up for new age, that would still be very beneficial to you, obviously. I'm talking about more along the lines of like, I believe firmly against, this thingy, whatever. And you're like, oh, maybe I should just get it. Like, who cares, right? Like, it's not a big deal. Like, why am I causing myself all this problem, all this trouble? And you're thinking that to yourself, but are you like, do they turn on the towers next to you potentially? Are you being bombarded with some sort of telepathic energy? For example, my little brother is very privy to this type of stuff. When he was younger, he was more receptive, right? And we watched this one movie, I think it was called Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind with Greer, right? I was more new agey at the time. And he's like, oh, after we watched that movie, I started getting creeped out because I was getting these messages from these beings, like, don't be scared. Like, we just want to talk, right? Because he was receptive. He was open to it. Not gonna lie, I was a little bit jealous. I'm like, why are they talking to him? He doesn't know anything about this stuff. Here I am trying to study all this stuff and they're talking to him, right? And that actually kind of happened with my previous relationship, my previous marriage as well, where she would get all of these like messages coming in, right? And she'd be like, oh, I just tune in and I get this, and they tell me this about you and this about me and blah blah blah, and do this. And sometimes she would see these mantid beings, or even grays, or even like blue beings, or whatever. And red flags started going off in my brain. I'm like, oh, hold on, I've been hearing some different stuff. Why are they talking to you? Why are they telling you this stuff? What do they want? Right? They have some sort of agenda. But the important part is that they actually have the ability to get into your thoughts, right? You guys may have heard, like in the astral, especially in the dreamscape, right? Your local astral field, they can project to you an image that they want you to see, right? So if you're seeing someone in your dream, let's say they're enticing you with sex, or they're enticing you with some sort of offer, and they want you to feel comfortable, they're gonna throw in that image, right? But it's maybe not as much them shifting their form, changing their form, rather altering the image that you have of them in your mind, so that your mind projects that onto them, right? Because you're susceptible to that, right? And you feel You can't differentiate. But the more lucid and aware you become in this world, the more you're able to differentiate between the dream, right? The dream worlds and the thoughts, especially. Which ones are your own, which ones aren't. And, I was just talking to someone recently about the inner monologue thing, the whole inner monologue, right? How NPCs potentially don't have that inner monologue. So they kind of maybe just receive that thought, boom, like a program, and they just go and act on it, right? And we do that ourselves when we're, let's say, in a state of anger, in a state of fear, or right, we're off balance, we're not aware anymore. We receive like this impulse, this thought, and we act on it impulsively. That may have not even been our own thought to begin with, right? That may have not even been something we initially wanted to do, but we're just like, oh man, the heat of the moment, I thought this, and I'm like, dude, I'm doing it, right? Like when people get tattoos, right? So I've been noticing more and more people with these butterfly tattoos, man, and it's pissing me off. Like, the girls, right, especially, I'm just like, wow, she's so cute, but she's got a butterfly tattoo. And like, I'm not trying to be judgmental, but I've noticed the pattern, and I know what that means. There's MK Ultra demonic infiltration likely happening with that, and they likely received the impulsive thought and acted on it, right? Oh, I think I'll get this. Boom. It shows, right? It just shows that they are infiltrated. They are going to keep receiving these telepathic thoughts from these entities, right? So they have entities hanging around them, and they can affect you in that way. And maybe I do too, maybe other people do as well. But if you're aware, right, you can receive these inputs and differentiate from them, right? And in the astral, they really try to control your thoughts, right? They try to control, just like here, but it's more aggressive. It's much more obviously Orwellian, right, in nature. Whereas here it's a little bit more subtle. They'll do kind of the shadow bands, they'll do the programming, all that, because they want you to think a certain way, right? But there it's like you get punished. From what I've heard from the stories, they have the astral cities, people are working, people need jobs, right? They earn the karma credits, or they didn't get enough karma credits in this life, so they live in like the middle class lifestyle, and they have to continue working or whatever. One guy just settled in his own cabin by a lake, and this astral teacher in their class told one of their students, like, whoever can convince this man to reincarnate gets an A, right? So he was fine in the astral, but he wasn't aware that he was still stuck in some sort of dream world, but he was comfortable. And they went in there trying to reprogram him, right, essentially through emotional manipulation with his daughter to get him reincarnated, right? I'm sure you guys have heard that story. I'm pretty sure we've talked about it on this channel. But in this astral realm, they use maybe more physical force to get people to not think outside of the common group think, right? Even the butterfly idea is a group thing. It's become a group think, like, oh, I've seen other people with that butterfly tattoo, I'll just get it too because it looks cool, right? And the moment you start getting away from that, asking questions, right? They don't want you to ask questions. They don't want you to ask questions here. Where are we? What are we doing? Is this place actually real? Are there beings managing this place? Why do we have to reincarnate all the time? Right? Because they have solutions, they have answers for people to ask questions. But they're slippery slope answers, right? They're fallacious, they're not truthful, right? And people can become agents of these entities, again, without even knowing. So they'll come across as sincere. They'll come across as saying, truly believing that we live in a life lesson academy school type of thing, and they don't even know they're disinformation agents, right? People call each other disinformation agents all the time, and someone will be like, no, I'm not, like, I'm sincere, like, I know what I believe, but those beliefs aren't your own, right? You've adopted them and regurgitated them. You haven't had a critical inner monologue, let's say, of your own, where you've sat there and debated, is that even a thing? Is that even possible? Like, truth withstands any sort of critic, any sort of question. Truth encourages questioning, right? So no matter what, it'll always be true. Like, I have this stick. I dropped the stick. It's not in my hand anymore. You can ask me 1,000 questions, but the stick was in my hand and then it dropped, right? That's it. At least from this relative perspective, that is objectively true. Other concepts and beliefs will not hold that ground. And I was watching one of Tony Sayers' videos about archaics, and he mentions how, again, the monarch thing came up, the monarch butterfly thing came up. It was a very programmable video. It wasn't like one of his 2-hour lectures, but he noticed the same patterns I did, right? So he believes that the being running this place, this AIX, is malevolent in nature, yet it's serving us and our oversoul because it's teaching us these lessons. So he may be sincere. He may see himself as sincere, but he is unknowingly a disinformation agent for the entities running him, right? Yes, we'll tell them about the AIX. Yes, we'll tell them about the resets and the time cycles. Great. But even all the videos that I've watched from him, I've maybe gotten small pieces of nuggets of information that I can take away. But these are good. A lot of the stuff was just intellectual jargon, to be honest. Not hating on the guy. I'm sure he does great work and all that, but there does seem to be a religious cult-like following praising him, maybe simply because they don't even understand what he's saying. And Tony mentions something along the same lines, but that's the conclusion that is drawn. So that regardless of all the information we've provided, here's the conclusion, and it must be true because I gave you proper information, and this conclusion must be true now, right? But people can take factual information all the time and draw improper conclusions because they have programming running and subliminal inclinations and biases towards that conclusion, right? Oh no, this can't be a bad place, even though I've experienced bad events. This must be serving me somehow. Possible. Could it also be a coping mechanism, right? The whole Stockholm syndrome, also very possible. So it's important to understand and be aware of the conclusions that we so just automatically draw based on maybe more neutral factual information. Like, yeah, every 138 years this reset happens. And I didn't really go in depth as to why. I mean, I tried to as to why he came up with this number. I really did. I got the whole 1902 part and all that, but I checked it myself with the gematria. And Ouroboros, which is the snake, right? Donald Trump, which he's tied to time travel and the Back to the Future thing numerically and geometrically in gematria. Donald Trump Ouroboros equal 138. So the Ouroboros, the snake eating itself, representing loops and time cycles and resets, equals 138 in English gematria. So to me, that provided validity in terms of the 138 years of time cycles. And the whole Phoenix idea and all that. But I say all that to say this again: he is influenced telepathically by these beings, right? Whether it's the Olympians, the Titans, the Aryans, whatever. And remember what I mentioned regarding consuming content of certain people, you're going to get influenced by the same beings behind that content, because it's not really that person, it's the entities promoting that through that person. Very similar to NDEs, right? Why do you think they're so pushed? Why do you think they're so much in the forefront? Why do you think Archaics is so all of a sudden in the forefront? Even Tony himself got a large following, whatever, 5 years, like he mentioned, but he doesn't have half the following that Archaics has. He's been pushed in the forefront. Santos Bonacci, that guy, same thing. Good data and proper conclusions. Whoever, right? They push him. They put him in the forefront, in the limelight, because they want people to stick with that. Not everyone's going to be able to take all the information, digest it, critically think on it, and then draw their own conclusion. They're going to be like, oh, okay, well, this guy did so much research. Well, let's see what he thinks. Okay, I'm going to just adopt that belief and then tell other people about it, but not understand why I'm telling people that, truly, right? I may have a few talking points, but there's not really much basis there. Anyways, that's the basis of this message that I wanted to share. Hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Let me know if you guys think I'm the same way as what I've just talked about in the video. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care.